Welcome to the premiere episode of Inside Voice, a monthly video podcast about what's going on in the voice industry and Voicify. My name is Jake DiMare, and I'm the VP of Marketing at Voicify. And I'm joined this month by our Chief Strategy Officer, Jason Fields, and our Chief Product Officer, Alex Dunn. Good afternoon, Alex. Good morning, Jason. How are you both?
Doing well.
Doing great. Awesome.
Awesome. How's the summer going so far?
It's been good.
Finally arrived in the Pacific Northwest, so we're happy.
Summer
yeah, ours has not calmed down.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, Jason is joining us from the San Juan Islands in the gorgeous Pacific Northwest. I had the opportunity to visit him recently and had such a good time. And Alex is here in Massachusetts with me, and we're just getting to the end of I felt like a 3-year heat wave. I think it was more like 2 weeks, but it's supposed to break today, so that's good news. All right, so this is our first episode of Inside Voice, and there is a lot to cover. It was a little bit difficult for me as I was going through notes of the different things we might talk about to narrow it down, but there have been a couple of very big developments in our industry in the last few months. The first one is Google recently announced that they would be sunsetting conversational actions. I thought that was pretty relevant, and so I'd like to unpack it a little bit. First, Alex, what are conversational actions, and what are the technical? Talk a little bit about the technical end of this development.
Yeah, so conversational actions are Google's sort of equivalent to an Alexa skill. Essentially, it was the ability for developers or actions builders to create experiences that run exclusively on Google Assistant that were meant to be conversational. Google Assistant can do a lot of different things, and basically these types of features were driven by conversation with the user. So folks would be building these for things like simple games or for integrated functionality into their brand or their system, or to just sort of create new ways for their users to engage. So conversational actions went through really like 3 different iterations over the last 5 years. There was the very first version from Google where they introduced some tools around building these actions. Then when they introduced Dialogflow, all of it sort of ran through that. So you would build a Dialogflow agent, you would be able to manage your intents and your utterances, and then create webhooks and responses and things like that would actually respond to the user based off what they were saying. And then it was about a year ago that they released the new Actions Builder platform, which is there to build conversational actions. And this was now separate from Dialogflow. So you'd still build a Dialogflow agent and deploy it to a Google conversational action. But now there was a standalone tool. They took this new approach for building. It was more sort of scene-based versus just pure intent, utterances, entities, or slots, which created a sort of new wave and a new opportunity for developers to be able to create these experiences and make them available on Google Assistant.
Interesting. So Jason, what does this mean for Voicify and for end users of the platform that they're sunsetting conversational actions in 2023?
Yeah, so I have no doubt that Google made this decision based on its own selfish and capitalistic reasons, but this is a godsend of a decision for brands, and maybe for Voicify, although at Voicify we're fairly dispassionate about the endpoints. We just want to make sure they all work. For brands, I think it is a really important moment to realize that Google and Google Assistant is choosing not to be all things for everyone. And in the world of Google, that's a pretty remarkable thing to tell the market. They actually use the term Voicify, although I don't think they're attributing it to us. We'll take it to talk about how brands should be going to market with their own assistant capabilities. And essentially what they want to do and what they're suggesting, which we believe to be the best use case anyway, is to bring the capabilities of an assistant within your sort of walled garden of brand. So whether it's your web, your native mobile, a drive-through, kiosk, television, whatever the endpoint may be that you own inside of your own brand, putting an assistant there makes a ton more sense than trying to lean on a third-party general purpose assistant in order to accomplish things. This paradigm is broken a smidge when you look at Google Assistant as a sort of object utility. So when you think about a smart home, Google Assistant is still a natural conduit in order to control a lot of these hardware components to one's home, the refrigerator, the stove, the oven, etc. And they're not backing away from that. They absolutely want to retain this level of utility as an interface for hardware, intelligent hardware, if you will. But as it pertains to less tangible experiences, right? Something that's multi-turn, something that is truly conversational rather than just control and command. They're essentially saying this is better served where your customers are expecting it to be, which is where they come deal with you or collaborate with you or converse with you. And that typically for a lot of brands is at a base level, web, native mobile. And then you look at some brands that extend that because they have the resources to do so, like Nike, that builds in assistant capability, even some of their products themselves. So it's an interesting time. It's sort of a curve around the bend that we've been expecting here at Voicify for a little bit, and we're excited that it's finally here, and that brands are thinking about more than just the general purpose assistants.
Excellent. Yeah. So I mean, I know that we've been working hard, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the product, the things that have happened to the Voicify product this year, and what's on the roadmap. But one of the sort of key headlines is that we've been working towards making it possible for people to deploy custom voice assistants to any endpoint that they'd like. So I think the connection between that topic and this one is that as far as Voicify users are concerned, we're already there. We have put in a lot of the foundational layers to make it possible for you to deploy a voice assistant to any endpoint. It's only going to get more robust as the year goes by. By June of 2023, it's not going to be a problem for users of our platform to put their voice assistant in any environment that they can even possibly imagine. So it's essentially good news. And if you have questions, obviously you can get in touch with us, right?
Yep.
Yeah, one thing I'd add there. Sorry, go ahead, Jason.
I was just gonna say, it's not, our customers aren't going to be prepared by June of 2023. They can do it now. They've always been able to do it. So essentially, this is Google scrubbing itself out of the ecosystem, and brands needing to realize that there's more important locations for the assistant to be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. One of the things that we've been looking at, not to get too far ahead of ourselves with what we've been up to at Voicify, but Google Assistant's not going anywhere. It's still there. It still has tens or hundreds of millions of users every month. And instead of trying to build bespoke conversational actions, these assistants that we build and that our customers build can still integrate with Google Assistant. It's just in a different way. It's through the web and it's through their apps. And you can still create those conversational experiences. It's just sort of surfaced up a little bit differently. And I think in a better way, honestly.
Agreed.
So the other 1,100-pound gorilla in the voice ecosystem is our friends at Amazon. They also had an interesting announcement a couple of weeks back that there would be a new Alexa skill monetization program and some interesting developer tools. What are the details here, and what do we think is going on, Alex?
Yeah, so Alexa from the beginning, like the Alexa sort of developer ecosystem, maybe not from the beginning, call it probably like 2 or 3 years after skill building really became a platform, immediately tried to create new avenues for developers to monetize what they're doing, right? To actually create experiences that are going to build a business for them. I think that's something that they've done a little bit more uniquely compared to other voice assistant platforms like Bixby or like Google Assistant and Siri as well. Whereas an ecosystem, they've been really focused on empowering the builder or the developer. So a lot of the ways that works can come from commerce, where you're making purchases through a skill. It can be especially, and I think this is where a lot of their focus is in like games and experience-based skills. Where developers can, do like you would in a mobile game and gate features or gate advantages behind paywalls and turn those into experiences that users like that also still drive revenue for the builder so that they'll continue to develop features and so on. So a new platform for being able to manage that more easily and sort of consolidate all these different ways of generating income from a skill builder, I think is really interesting. It definitely leans really into just the game side and the experience side more than it does like here's tools for brands that are, building things and have their existing revenue services, and now there's a new way to incorporate it in with Alexa. It's more, I think, for the builder who's trying to create something new and novel, and find a way to make it sustainable for them.
Interesting. So, as you know, Jason, we are thrilled that our client Odyssey recently launched the latest edition of their mobile streaming app to millions of users, and it quietly included the first iteration of their custom voice assistant powered by Voicify. Can you tell us a little bit more about what the most recent release and what's going on at Odyssey and what the future holds there?
Yeah, absolutely. We Alex and I, along with another colleague of ours, Nick, were able to spend a number of months in late 2021 helping them land on a strategy for voice and for their voice assistant. They've got a lot of really great things in the hopper for what's going to come. One of the things that they leaned on us for and that we're big believers in is the idea of building trust and also training the user to expect certain things when it comes to a voice assistant. So while the technology to do virtually everything you could spin up on a whiteboard is there, especially with our platform, um, it's really important to take your time and think through how you're going to allow people to lean into new technology. And for that reason, in this quiet release they just did, and they're going to do some marketing and awareness over the next few months about this specifically. They landed on allowing for essentially a voice user interface to be the first iteration of what the voice assistant was capable of doing. And what that means is when it comes to media, there are certain things that a user is expecting to be able to do, from player controls and from search and faceted search and things of that nature, preferences and whatnot. And so they structured Voicify to be able to connect to an existing layer of functionality that they have in their iOS and Android apps and soon their web app, to allow people to do things that would require tap and swipe, point and click, whatever channel you're on, in order to accomplish them. Now you can simply do those things by hitting a microphone button in the app and talking to Odyssey. So if I want to play the latest episode of Smartless, or I want to listen to the Britney Spears station or playlist, I can simply command the native mobile application to do so on my behalf. This is, again, could it be considered rudimentary or elementary? For sure. But to an audience that has never had a voice interface available to them, it was really important to start with some of the smaller use cases so that the more technically advanced and aggressive voice assistant capabilities, whether it's extended content, interactive advertising, talk back to stations, all of these things, if launched all at once, could not only be confusing to an end user, but would be a lot for them to try to onboard at once. So for the first round of this voice assistant, which will, I'm guessing, last probably 3 to 6 months, the limit is sort of voice user interface at a control and command level. And then it'll evolve into more robust functionality, both as the sort of internal resources at Odyssey start ramping up on their own capabilities to support a more robust ecosystem of voice interactivity, but also allowing the listener to keep pace with them and to grow with the technology rather than it all being sort of slammed on the desk in front of them at once.
That makes sense. A classic crawl, walk, run approach. I'll tell
Yeah.
you, I had a chance to download and interact with the app on my own phone, and it, to me, it's sort of the best case scenario for a custom voice assistant, because not only does it make it a more delightful experience to interact with the Odyssey mobile app, but it does I think I, like a lot of people, like to listen to music while we're driving or doing different things where our hands are occupied. And this first iteration of the voice assistant on the Odyssey app makes it possible for me to stay focused on what I need to be focused on, whether that's driving a car or interact. For me, it's sailing. Right? My hands are always busy on the boat, or cooking, or whatever it is you're doing. You can now use your Odyssey app with your voice and not have to stop what you're doing and be distracted. So it's exciting to see where they go next with that. And for those that don't know, Odyssey was formerly Entercom. It's a massive organization. They own 235 radio stations in 48 North American media markets. So this is a non-trivial scope of an app and an organization, and we're really excited to be partnered with them to bring this stuff to market. Anything you could share with us about the work on Odyssey, Alex?
Yeah, a couple things, to your point on hands-free interactions and integrated, especially in the car. The big thing that they wanted to focus on, especially, is also building on that concept of building trust and training the user that they can talk to Odyssey and get what they want. We also help them integrate that with Siri and as well with Google Assistant through App Actions. So when you are, for example, in CarPlay or Android Auto, or really anywhere, right? You could even just be, looking at your iPhone while it's locked and use Siri to jump right in. You can still then search for content, find what you're looking for in Odyssey, and have it play right away. And all that sort of going through the assistant on the Voicify platform, even though the initial interface is through a different assistant like Siri or Google Assistant, which is cool. It's I'm really excited. I think about the potential growth there. I mean, Odyssey's app is the old radio.com app, right? It's Entercom, it's radio.com, it's all that now in one under one sort of roof as Odyssey. And I think the future of interactive audio content is going to be coming from a place like Odyssey. And I think a voice assistant is a big stepping stone to get there.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So, Alex, continuing on, or sort of circling back to what we had started to talk about earlier, there have been a lot of really exciting developments with the Voicify platform. And, as these monthly videos are going to be a companion to our newsletter, where we're talking to a lot of the folks who are already users of Voicify or prospective users, I thought it would be good to spend some time about what's new and what's on the roadmap for the rest of this year.
Yeah. So, on the product team side, our big focus is on empowering our customers and our users to build the most intelligent voice assistants and put them everywhere. That's our guiding light. In doing that, we've been focused recently on a number of new features that make that easier, right? To go from this concept like, yeah, you can build the craziest voice assistant that can do anything. It can learn about who your users are, it can create personalized experiences, it can integrate into all your backend systems, and you can deploy it anywhere. That nuance of deploying it anywhere, there's always an asterisk, and we're trying to get rid of that as much as possible. So a number of things that we've worked on and have shipped into both beta and into production around that is new SDKs for web and mobile to be able to go from this concept of, okay, I have the assistant, right? It's there. It's sort of in this headless format. How do I actually make it available in my native mobile app? Previously this has always been a sort of big challenge of like, well, now you got to build your own UI around it. You got to build your state management. You got to integrate it into what's actually going on in the app if you wanted to do something within the client UI. And we found new ways to make that easier with just like single snippet drop in, and you're still able to then manage it from the CMS. Including some of the things coming up, like style changes, to be able to just go into the Voicify CMS and change the behavior and change the style and see those realized immediately for your users is a really cool thing. Where you still have the opportunity to build things headlessly, but we have a extremely customizable and flexible SDK for shipping stuff out of the box. And then the same thing for the browser, right? If you're going to put a voice assistant in the web, to let users talk to your brand or to your service on the website, do things in the website that they're on. We make that as easy as just a drop-in SDK from the CDN or just a drop-in SDK from NPM, depending on how you build your apps. And you're sort of off and running. And again, those customizations can be continuously built. And then on the other side, for building intelligent voice assistants, we're trying to find new ways to continue to make those assistants intelligent without putting a ton of burden on the builder to bring in a whole bunch of data, to bring in all their existing tools and to kind of figure out how an assistant should really work. So we have new NLP tools that kind of work behind the scenes that a number of our customers are already using for doing things like named entity recognition and sentiment analysis in a continuous way. So it's not tying data into an intent and a slot and an utterance. These are things that are always available. And in that, being able to extract and detect just massive amounts of data from a single utterance to be able to be used in business logic. So things like, we put out a couple videos of ordering like 30 different pizzas from a single utterance and like really talking in a human manner, but turning that into meaningful purpose and extracting the right data at the right time, correlating it to each other in the right way. And for us, like, we know we can do that, but it's around building the tools to make that faster, easier to implement, where we're getting that sort of benefit of big machine learning models that do stuff automatically without sacrificing the flexibility of getting into the nitty gritty, bringing your own data, and so on. So that's been a big focus of ours, is just making these voice assistants smarter more easily, and putting them in more places more easily too.
Excellent. My co-star joined me here on the stage. It's very difficult to it's very difficult to keep him out when he wants in. What are the most exciting things on our product roadmap for the rest of the year?
Yes, there's a couple things that I'm really excited about. We've done some sort of like alpha builds for integrating your voice assistants into games, into 3D applications, into VR, into augmented reality. I'm excited to continue to explore those and get those into production ready states, where if you're building anything in a 3D engine, to be able to put one or many different voice assistants in that environment, I think is cool for creating immersive experiences in those situations, as well as unlocking sort of new potential and freeing up people's hands to do other stuff, and also making those sort of 3D experiences more accessible. Beyond that, we're looking at ways for automating what we already track in analytics for all the depth of what you could possibly understand about what a user is doing and how they've navigated your assistant in the past, and turning those into immediate and automated actionable items to say, how much do you want Voicify to be able to kind of like auto course correct and help you create the smarter assistant based not just on what's available, but what people are really looking for and what they're saying. So creating this sort of self-learning loop with a human in the middle for intervention, and doing that in a way that's, again, easy to understand. You don't have to be a data scientist to manage. Although if you are a data scientist, I'm sure you'll love it too. Those are the things coming up for the rest of the year that I'm really excited about. More channels, which unlock just tons of new experiences that are sort of around the bend, and developing more user activity and like action in those environments, in VR and games and so on, and just making assistants that learn from how people are really talking to them and just get better.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so lightning round, more broadly speaking, in the voice industry. Jason, you can go first. What are you most excited about right now?
I think the fact that within the Fortune 1000, we're seeing 60-70% of those brands acting or talking about operationalizing conversational AI within their business. And in some of those businesses, it's internal operations, it's making their employees more efficient, faster, smarter, reducing friction in mundane tasks that they have to do every day, that I'm sure as an employee myself, the mundane is not the part of my day I enjoy doing, all the way to operationalizing it with existing customers or with prospective customers. These companies are really adopting, I think, more quickly now that it's been a few years of novelty growth within conversational AI. And we're seeing that it's a meaningful interface and a meaningful tool for brands to leverage against what their brand promise or what they're offering to market is, and in some cases expand and invent new revenue models for themselves that bring value to the customer. It's not just about exploiting the market, but it's about bringing additional value, reducing friction, creating efficiency. The fact that that's happening now at a much greater, I think, volume than it was a few years ago is exciting, not only because I help run a company that's invested in making it possible for these brands to do it, but because I'm a believer in this interface, and I'm a believer in conversational AI and how it can be used for good. And we're seeing companies start to lean into that pretty heavily.
Awesome. Alex?
Oh man, I'm gonna sound like Jason's echo here. Just trying to think of something completely unrelated.
I paid him to let me go first.
Yeah, I'm excited for people to stop accusing Lambda of being sentient, because it's not. No, but I think for me, it's I'm I'm excited around people really focusing on use cases that drive value. We saw when these big voice assistant platforms came out and people really started to productize things like speech recognition and text to speech and like very basic like conversational AI, like intent based type of interactions, that people really shot for getting something to try it. And a lot of times those just didn't work. Like they weren't the way that users really wanted to interact. And I think we're at this point now where people are still realizing like, okay, this isn't something novel. There's something to build here that's going to solve a problem. And they're taking that step back to like what really matters. And what I'm really excited about beyond that is that we're seeing tools shamelessly like Voicify being able to make that a reality, where before you could think about, I want a voice assistant that'll do this, and this, and it's always like, okay, well, yeah, give us like 3 years and $1 bajillion in budget and we can make a voice assistant for our company that does that. And spinning around high functioning integrated assistants very quickly that are there for users to actually enjoy, not to just say, hey, look at me, we're over here in the voice space. That's I think where we're finally headed, which is really exciting.
Yeah, creating a true conversational interface to digital, right?
Yeah,
That's exciting
exactly.
stuff. Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you both so much for your time. I know you're super busy. If you've got questions about voice or Voicify, we would love to connect. So please contact us at www.voicify.com. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. That will tell the algorithm you want to keep up with us here on YouTube. If you'd like to connect with us in the real world, Alex and I, as well as Jeff McMahon, our CEO, are speaking at Voice 2022 in Arlington, Virginia from October 10th to the 13th. Also, I am speaking at the Boy Digital Leadership Conference in Aarhus, Denmark from November 8th to the 10th. We're also having a virtual event the 3rd or 4th week in September with Scott Westwater to talk about custom voice assistants. We're still working out the details, but when it's finalized, you can learn all about it on our website, on Twitter, or LinkedIn, and we'll put links to everything in the description for this video. So that's it for this month. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please enjoy these last few weeks of summer. Bye-bye.